am fortunately in a position where I no longer need a job. I make plenty of money online. Everything's stabilizing. My numbers are going up. 2025 was my best year ever. I'm perfectly comfortable saying that, like, I don't need a job and I don't need to go through the hiring process again. However, what makes me different from, I think, a lot of people that came before me is that not only am I leaving the job market, not only am I leaving working behind, I am going to continue to stand in solidarity with young white men in this matter, because this is the major cultural shift I think we need to go through. We're talking about, like, we talked a lot about, like, the Jews, feminism. We've talked a lot about, race and, like, DEI and stuff like that. We really do need to take the next step, is that we really do need to talk about doing more for young white men. So yeah, obviously I'm not young anymore. Obviously I'm successful. Obviously I have all these things going for me, but, like, it's time we start acknowledging, like, what we're gonna do to correct all these problems. And obviously, I've talked a lot about how, like, a lot of these HR recruiters need to start going to prison. We need to start, like, heavily fining companies. We need to start, like, taking all these major steps to go after them. Like, if they keep trying to bring in immigration or trying to undermine white people, or, try and make excuses. Like, one of the things they always do, like, oh, we can't find anybody to work. They don't have the qualifications. Okay, then you need to pay for the training of young white American men. Like, all you would have to do, in theory, if that was true, it's not, to find new local workers is just train them and pay them for what it's worth. And of course, they're not going to do that. They're going to fight. They're going to bitch. They're going to moan. And it is time we start bitch slapping them, especially if you are actually working under them. Because I do think that's the main takeaway I've gotten from this point. The main takeaway I've gotten from this experience is that, like, what I want to do is that whenever I have some, like, I don't know, HR whore or some, like, business owner whining about, like, having to hire, American, or having to do certain things, like, what should immediately happen? Pow! Bitch slap! Like, he goes to the floor, he starts crying. No, you can't do this to me. Stop hurting me. And then, like, I call the police. Like, oh man, you're complaining about having to pay people a certain amount. You're complaining about not being allowed to abuse immigrants. Like, and so, like, the business owner goes to prison. The business shuts down. A new one comes up in its place that actually treats people properly, that actually makes a product that people actually want to use, that doesn't use immigrant labor, and then everyone's happy, That is the situation that we do need to see more of, is that we do need to see more people in the upper and middle class telling these people to shut the fuck up. I never want to hear this cope about how nobody wants to work ever again. I don't want to hear this cope about, like, I have too many resumes to sit through. I don't want to hear people, like, giving, like, honestly, if you post on LinkedIn, like, you should just be lined up against the wall and shot. Honestly, like, the average LinkedIn user should be killed, because their attitudes and their behaviors and, like, the things they do, like, don't hire anybody who doesn't need the job to survive. It's just stupid, Like, your only thought process going into the hiring process is, like, I need someone to do this job, and I'm going to find someone who's willing to learn how to do it. I don't want to hear about skill sets. I don't want to hear about degrees. That's another thing, too. The degree thing needs to go. Okay, I don't want to hear about how I need a bachelor degree to do this or that. You can pay for that. The employer can pay for that themselves. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want anyone else to deal with it. Eliminate the university program. You don't need them. It doesn't work. People are going in debt for no reason. Put people to work younger to acquire a real skill set, and just completely eliminate the college years. There's no reason for them to exist. They're a complete waste of everyone's time. Fuck college. So when you have that into consideration, when you have, like, everything that's going on now, like, we are seriously gonna have to start thinking about how exactly we're going to make this practical. And I do think it's just going to be amount to like a massive cultural shift. Enough of this whole like everyone going for themselves thing, like enough of like the woke culture, enough of like the grifting and like, never doing anything for anybody else. Like that's the main takeaway, I think, is that people who are more well established, who are more successful, who have successful careers, their priority should be helping other people, younger people, start their careers. So you have like a healthy ecosystem of people who are like, have good relationships with each other and like, can keep like keeping things functional. Like the whole like sociopathic, like, corporate America of like, oh, I'm gonna screw people over and get to the top. It's like, not only is it dumb, not only is it unfulfilling, not only does it not like, it's not good for business, like you're setting yourself up for failure, because inevitably what you're doing when you do that, when you enable that kind of culture, is that you are setting yourself up to be backstabbed and fucked over in some way, shape, or form. It's just pathetic. It's kind of remarkable, honestly, like the sheer amount of like middle management people I've met who are like dumb as rocks, who have no real skill set, who are just kind of like spending their entire lives basically like fucking over other people in the workplace. And like it's so bizarre to me how much happier and more successful I was at my level. There were so many times these people would threaten me and like try and get me fired or like make all these wild claims. And I, someone with my, online platform, my books, something, my paid off house, my paid off car, someone with like, with all of these things going for me, you really get this sense that like these guys are never ever going to live happy, fulfilling lives ever. Like they are so stuck in this mindset that they have to behave a certain way to be successful. And it simply isn't true. Like it's not true in any way, shape, and form. Actually, not only is it not true, it's like kind of antithetical to reality. Okay. Like it goes completely against what you should be striving for as a person, as a human being, as a business owner. You're not cultivating like your company. You're not building up people. You're just kind of like exploiting them. And it's not resulting in a healthy business model or a success story. I do feel like the reason why you see so many people just kind of refusing to work certain jobs and do certain things is entirely because of just how stereotypical like the owners and like the managers behave, like how they're all like this essentially. And I do think that's the next major step we need to take, is that we need to take like more steps to protect American workers. Okay. Like that means you need to have like, guaranteed training, guaranteed employment, guaranteed like career advancement. You need like, guaranteed help for like whatever situation you're in, my situation, I'm in a very specific industry. I'm in a bad part of the country for that industry. Right. So there should have been a very clear pathway to like, for me to like, to become successful in my chosen field, in my specialty, and like doing all this stuff. Like I shouldn't have to drive like 5 hours, one way to a location so I can like do something and then drive 5 hours back. It's retarded. Okay. Like it doesn't work. It's not a good idea. And we do have to like kind of start acknowledging that, is that there is everything we're doing now when it comes to like the employment system is retarded. Like I am making more sitting at home making YouTube videos than I ever would at a job, and a big part of that is because I've spent so much time and effort like mastering the craft and like coming up with my own style of presentation, having like multiple sources of income, investing from my old jobs, right? Like I worked very hard to get where I am, but like when you have someone like me, like who's very, very successful, and then you see like the reality of the job market for me, when you like try to apply to a job and you have these people who are like actually less qualified than you trying to like sneer at you and saying you're not good enough. Like again, like there needs to be serious repercussions for trying to pull that nonsense, honestly. Like I do think that like that we do need to have like stricter repercussions for this kind of behavior. Like if you apply to something, like you should just be able to get it, at least for the experience, right? Like them just sitting there crying about you not having experience or having too much experience in some cases, it's unacceptable. And like it needs to be cracked down on hard. Like, and I mean like absolutely hard. And like I would not be against like severely cutting like the pay for these people. They need to be making significantly less. Like there needs to be like more done to kind of like incentivize business owners to care more about like the community and like doing things, like actually doing things instead of like bending over backwards to screw people over. Like, there needs to be serious consequences for what the boomers have done to this country. Okay. Like, I don't want to wait until they die. Like, we need to get the ball rolling on this now. Okay. And, I think now is a good time to start. We're making very good progress when it comes to the immigration side of things. People are celebrating ICE, people are celebrating deportations. Mass remigration is like a major terminology now, but like I do think we need to start thinking about the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years. Okay. I don't want like browns to just go back to their countries. I want white people to go there, take over everything and start building up, like, start being like the ruling class worldwide. Okay. I don't want like, employers to not simply be allowed to hire illegals. I want like, an absolute, like a more robust system of like going after people for like serious transgressions in this regard. Like there needs to be like, more protection for employees. We need to have like, like more readily available like educational tools. Like there needs to be like an easy to understand like a job portal where you can like easily gain experience, like regardless of where you are in life. That's been a problem with me specifically because like, I'm so successful in the writing sphere, but when it comes to general jobs, because, I never really needed to work like a general job. Like, there's always this thing where like, oh, you have to work at least a year in this field before you can apply for this. Like, no, like if I want like a basic job to pay for like my career, which by the way, I'm already part of, like, I don't need to spend like a year of my life focusing on this like other thing to get this job that I should just be able to get, honestly. Like, again, this is, we're quickly reaching the point where, a lot of these ideas are going to become viable. We are going to see like, more of a crackdown against like, the Israeli thing. We're going to see more people like start being vocal about like, societal problems. It's becoming harder and harder to kind of deny that there's a problem. And like, I think the major thing that's changed, especially in the past 5 years, is that like, younger people are done with being told that they're the problem. Okay. Like that's the major takeaway from like the past five years is that like, I am completely through with being told that like I did something wrong or that my resume is not good enough or that I don't have the experience. It simply isn't true, honestly. And not only am I going to tell you that, I'm going to tell you that what you're doing now is not going to be a thing going forward. Like I am completely shutting it down. Everyone younger is shutting it down. Like the golden age of like DEI is over. Okay. And forget white boy summer. It's going to be white boy world. Okay. Like that's the future I have in mind for our culture, for society, for white people. The whole like, white guilt thing, it's over. The whole feminism thing, it's over. The Jew worship thing, it's over. This is how it starts. It starts with us taking back our jobs, eliminating this nonsense, and putting a complete stop to globalism and this Zionist agenda. Like this is the beginning of the end.